What's going on in politics today?
I wonder if this is a deal that might need to be like the biscuits in this factory, twice baked.
Is there not an opportunity here to win out against the extremes?
Tom Harwood, GBNews.
What are you going to do about it?
Things should have been done differently, and they certainly are being done differently.
Don't miss it. The briefing with me, Tom Harwood, 9:30 Monday to Friday on GB News.
Join me, Nana Akua, Saturday and Sunday afternoons on GB News. Expect fiery debate and passionate discussion as me and my panel tackle some of the biggest topics hitting the headlines. It's a place for everyone's opinion. No one gets cancelled, but no one gets an easy ride.
Oh, she's on it today!
Be ready for conversations that are fierce, frank, and of course, fun. Every Saturday and Sunday afternoon from 4 p.m. on GB News, the People's Channel. Hello, good afternoon and welcome. This is GB News on TV, online and on digital radio. I'm Nana Akua, and for the next 2 hours, me and my panel will be taking on some of the big topics hitting the headlines right now. This show is all about opinion. It's mine, it's theirs, and of course it's yours. We'll be debating, discussing, and at times we will disagree, but no one will be cancelled. So joining me today is broadcaster and columnist Lizzie Cundy, and also political commentator Sam Dowler. Before we get started, let's get your latest news headlines.
Good afternoon to you. It's 4 o'clock. I'm Aaron Armstrong in the GB newsroom. The Prime Minister is holding crisis talks with the NHS in an attempt to ease the pressure on the health service. Rishi Sunak's discussing 4 critical issues, including social, urgent and emergency care at the NHS Recovery Forum, alongside health experts and other ministers. However, he's been warned the talks are unlikely to reverse the current backlog, with senior doctors saying the NHS is on a knife edge. In his first speech of the new year, Mr Sunak made reducing waiting lists one of his key pledges before the next election. Shadow Public Health Minister Andrew Gwynne says he hopes today's talks will have a positive outcome.
Everybody who has an interest in the National Health Service really should be round the table, trying to work out not only the short-term measures that are needed to get us through the rest of this winter, but also how we then put health and social care on a sustainable footing, the kind of reforms that are needed, the kind of investment that's needed for the long term, not just sticking plasters.
The RMT says rail companies at the heart of the long-running dispute over pay have made hundreds of millions of pounds in profits. The union claims huge profits were generated when the government awarded private train operators new contracts during the pandemic. They say companies made up to £310 million in taxpayer-funded profits between March 2020 and September 2022. It comes as the RMT and 14 train operators continue their 48-hour walkout over pay, jobs and conditions. Police in the United States have arrested a 6-year-old boy after he shot and injured a teacher at a primary school in the state of Virginia. Officers say the woman's injuries were initially thought to be life-threatening, but her condition has improved in hospital. The chief of police says the shooting was not accidental and the two had what they called an altercation. It's unclear how the child got hold of the handgun. Russia claims its forces will uphold its declared ceasefire in Ukraine until midnight, despite Ukraine dismissing the truce as propaganda. Ukraine rejected President Putin's ceasefire, saying it was merely designed to give Russian forces the opportunity to rest and rearm during the Orthodox Christmas period. Kyiv has vowed to continue its efforts to retake its land. Meanwhile, Moscow says its defence has only returned artillery fire sent by Ukrainian forces. MPs have been urged to support paid leave for miscarriage. The proposal by an SNP member would grant 3 days of statutory paid leave to parents who experience a miscarriage before 24 weeks of pregnancy. Angela Crawley says it would give the parents time they need to grieve. Currently, paid bereavement leave is only given following stillbirth after 24 weeks. In his memoir, Prince Harry claims his role as Prince William's best man at his wedding was a barefaced lie. He reportedly says the role was fulfilled by the Prince of Wales' two closest friends. He also suggests King Charles feared Meghan would dominate the monarchy and steal the limelight from Charles and Camilla. Referring back to his military days, Harry has pointed out he killed 25 Taliban fighters, a claim which has been criticised by both senior figures in the British Army and the Taliban themselves. Flood warnings are in place across England and Wales as heavy downpours are set to hit the country overnight. There are 27 flood warnings in place for England and 6 more in place for Wales. The Scottish Environmental Protection Agency has issued 6 flood alerts for Scotland. Now, this is GB News. We'll bring you more as it happens, but now let's return to Nana.
Good afternoon. You're with me. I'm Nana Akua. This is GB News on TV, online and on digital radio. It's just gone 5 minutes after 4 o'clock. Trash for cash. Price, Harry? I gave a blackout on the Harcourts. I gave it a go. But in Prince Harry's words, there comes a point when silence is betrayal. I wouldn't want him to think that I betrayed him. Besides, even when you try and avoid this pair, they shove themselves in your face. Seriously, is this the behaviour of people who want privacy, to be left alone for their own mental health? Unprompted, Prince Harry, to promote his coming release of his latest Whinge-fest spare, with his sad little face and puppy dog eyes on the cover, wants us to feel sorry for him again. Oh, woe is me with my $1 million mansion in one of the nicest places on earth, surrounded by A-listers, a.k.a. Oprah and Barack, with my gorgeous wife, kids, and oh, by the way, I'm the son of the king. So unprompted, he gives an interview to Anderson Cooper. Never heard of him. Obviously, Harry found somebody who was prepared to sacrifice their integrity, a bit like Tom Bradbury. Harry's hardly going to let someone ask him real questions, is he?
You know, the family motto is never complain, never explain. But it's just a motto, and it doesn't really hold...
There's a lot of complaining and a lot of explaining.
Yes, well, I was expecting him to say it that bit, by you, Harry, but then Harry continues.
Through leaks. They will feed or have a conversation with the correspondent, and that correspondent will literally be spoon-fed information and write the story, and then at the bottom of it, they will say that they've reached out to Buckingham Palace for comment.
Through leaks? Is he talking about himself leaking information? Isn't he doing the same thing, leaking stuff about his memoir? Can't he see it? The contents of which are now trickling out due to an accidental mishap in Spain, where the book was released early. And if the translations are correct, details about how he lost his virginity in a field as he was tapped on his behind afterwards and told to be on his way, his frost-bitten penis, and how many people he has killed in Afghanistan, comparing them to pieces on a chessboard, sharing the kind of information that you'd tell your partner to shut up about if you overheard them telling friends and family, the sort of stuff that would put you off your food at a dinner party. Apparently, his brother William knocked him to the ground when he heard about his marriage to Meghan. Yes, of course he did. He was trying to knock some goddamn sense into you, boy. Look at the mess you've made ever since. Harry's complaining that the royal family have remained silent, which is protocol, by the way. But that isn't quite true. In fact, the royal family have issued numerous statements to protect the pair, as Jesus Enriquez Rosas points out.
We have Vogue. The royal family issues an unprecedented statement about Prince Harry's girlfriends. And Vanity Fair, Prince William issues a statement in support of Prince Harry and Meghan Markle's relationship. Buckingham Palace made a rare move to officially deny feud rumors surrounding Kate Middleton and Meghan Markle. The cut: Palace denies reports that Meghan Markle's dog was photographed mid-poo. What?
So let me see. You leave this country, which, judging by the footage in your horror-mentary, Harry, was a pre-planned escape. You go on Oprah whilst your grandfather is dying and bang on about someone being racist in the royal household. The Queen puts out a statement, recollections may vary, whilst tending to her dying husband and best friend for some 70 years. You knock out interviews, podcasts, a 6-part docu-thing where you promote it with a load of unrelated images that won't pass Ofcom in this country, prompting our Prime Minister to call for stricter regulation of streaming giants. And in it, you pretty much call Britain racist. And in this, your latest Whinge Fest, your headline is a scrap with your brother. Newsflash, brothers fight.
Absolutely, yeah, it's normal. Like all siblings argue. In fact, like I didn't fight with my brother probably because I was scared of him. But if I wasn't so scared of him when I was younger, we would have had loads of fights. And with my sister, we were similar in age, so we probably had more fights than what me and my brother would have had. So it's normal. All families fight. Just because they're royals don't mean they're not any different to any of us.
Honestly, I've got 5 siblings, and yeah, to be fair, we tussled due to, you know, who's the oldest, from oldest to youngest. But it's normal. I said if you didn't tussle and, you know, competition and things like that, you know, it wouldn't be normal.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I've seen it happen with all my friends. That's completely normal.
You go on about a frostbitten penis, cocaine and killing a load of people, which you compare to chess pieces, which if this was a chessboard, Harry, you'd be a pawn. And like a pawn, you'll never be king. Even the Americans are sick of you. Perhaps, looking at the mess you've made, the number of staff between the two of you that you've managed to dispatch, and the numerous books that don't paint your dearest Meghan in the best of lights, maybe, just maybe, your brother had a point. By all means, tell the truth as you see it, but the gall of Harry to think that he deserves some sort of apology, that's a joke, right? And silence, in Prince Harry's simplistic view, equals
the point when silence is betrayal.
Let me help you out, Harry. Sometimes people stay silent for fear of saying things to upset, inflame or put their foot in a situation, making it worse. In other instances, people stay silent to avoid stooping to the same low levels. Perhaps this is what the palace is doing, something that maybe you should consider doing yourself. You can't force people to behave how you want them to behave. Complaining about Thomas Markle selling information whilst doing exactly the same thing, there's simply no self-reflection. If only Harry and Meghan would look in the mirror, creating a racket with drama, only to be upstaged by silence. For God's sake, people, don't encourage him. Don't buy the book. The Queen was right. Never complain, never explain. Because silence, Harry, is the loudest noise in the theatre. Right, so before we get stuck into the debate, here's what else is coming up today for the Great British Debate this hour. I'm asking, who do you trust, Sunak or Starmer, or perhaps none of the above? Prime Minister Rishi Sunak has outlined a 5-point plan to get the country back on track, including to halve inflation, which was probably going to halve anyway, to grow the economy, slash debt, cut NHS waiting times and tackle the migrant crisis head on, whatever that means. And that is, of course, as Labour's counterpart, Sir Keir Starmer, promised to take back control through devolution, which to me was always a bad idea from the start, by transferring power from Westminster to local communities. But who has the right idea? Who do you trust to solve the country's problems? Then stay with me, because at 4:50 it's time for our Royal Roundup. The body language expert Jesus Enrique Rosas and royal biographer Angela Levin will be joining me to pick apart the latest drama from the royal household. Prince Harry has made a series of sensational claims in his memoir, Spare. He attacks his brother, father, stepbrother. The leaked extracts reveal that Prince William allegedly assaulted his brother in an argument over Meghan Markle. Then stay tuned, because at 5 o'clock it's this week's Difficult Conversation. And perhaps this year, your resolve is to find a man or woman of your dreams, or maybe your relationship is always going wrong. Are you starting something new? Are you single this year in 2020? Was it a big year? Is it going to be huge plans? Are you planning? There are loads of celebrities have already split, including One Director star Harry Styles and his partner Olivia Wilde. Family therapist and relationship expert Natalia Kobylinka will be in the studio live. That's on the way in the next hour. Tell me what you think on everything we're discussing. Email gbviews@gbnews.uk or tweet me at gbnews. Right, let's get started. Let's welcome again to my panel broadcaster and columnist Lizzie Cundy, and also political commentator Sam Dowler. Welcome back. Sam came back. You're much in the background. You've got that nice tinge of blue in you there.
Thank you, always.
Nice to see you.
He's back and we're old friends, Nana.
This will be fun. This will be fun.
I know.
Now, Lizzie, what did you think? I mean, I know you know, you've met Meghan Markle before. Have you met Harry before?
Yes, I have met Harry before. Yeah, in South Africa at the World Cup, he was actually staying next to me in the where we were staying at the wonderful hotel in Johannesburg, and saw him on many occasions actually, and knew friends of Harry's, and was out with Meghan, helped Meghan when she first came to London. Actually,
So
who
what do
knew
you make
nobody.
What do you make of this thing? Because he's basically just giving us a lowdown on pretty much everything, things that you just don't say. He's saying them all.
Yeah, 1 minute. Shall I get my violin out? Da, 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 da. Let me just tell you, Nana, I was actually quite shocked because it's not only spiteful, it's revengeful, it's nasty, it's wicked, it's hurtful, but most of all, it's dangerous. And him talking about killing 25 of the Taliban, does he realise what he's saying? Because this is absolutely what you do not do when you've served for your country and for the army. And I spoke to someone that was on 3 tours with him, Colonel Tim Collins, is absolutely appalled with how he's speaking, because it's something you never do. It goes against the grain of being in the army and everything you stand for. And he's gone 100 steps back, but he's also put not just himself at security risk, the others he was in the army with, his other comrades, and also his family and this country. It's a huge security
risk. They risked their
risk.
lives to protect him. And obviously, they would have been a huge operation to protect him. And, you know, it was a great risk for them, even being around him, for then him to just say that he did all this. And people will be able to work out who was with him. What do you think, Sam?
It boggles the mind, really. First of all, I think, you know, there were reports initially after the Platinum Jubilee that he wanted to yank back the book, but obviously that ship had sailed, and I think it quite possibly was a case of, you know, how people say, you know, if you're in anger, don't send the email, don't send the text, sleep on it, etc. But so I think this is a very angry man, and, you know, and he feels very... And obviously the thing about being the second in command, the spare, is really hit home with him. But for me, it's just the spitefulness and the hypocrisy. Even little things like saying about William's hair, for example. I mean, like, you know...
The bald bit,
his hair is here today, hair today, gone tomorrow anyway. But it's like... But obviously, like, losing one's hair, especially for a man, is really emotional. So to put that in there about his brother in front of everybody... My mum has this saying that she always goes, oh, no, don't say about family business, which is important. Like, even to say to, like, one another, to a friend or something, but this is to the whole world, and it's at a time in the UK where, you know, things aren't great with the government, with the economy, with the NHS, everything. Like, he's not even thinking of his people, because this is giving us collective anxiety.
But some people would say that he is entitled to have his truth. Loads of people have written stuff about him. He can have his... It's time for his say. So he's doing what they've all done, and he's making money out of it just like they are. And also, he is not working royal anymore, so he's entitled to do that.
But look, this is... do you know, I hate these words. This is my truth. Well, do you know what? For Harry, the others can't speak back. William, King Charles... cannot answer what he's saying. How do they know? We know this is true. Look at their track record from the past. There have been many lies that you know, they've told on the Oprah interview that, you know, was another groundbreaking, gobsmacking interview. But sadly, what he's done to his brother is unforgivable, and I don't ever see them ever being reconciled after this.
It's the King Charles was jealous, Camilla was jealous, everyone was jealous. And listen to how you sound, Harry. Not everyone was jealous of Meghan.
No, they don't, and they don't all want to be you, and they're not jealous of you, and you're not the only ones in love. Remember, you've only been together for a short time. But anyway, we'll carry on with that because you're with me. I'm Nana Akua. This is GB News on TV, online and on digital radio. After the break, it's time for our Great British Debate this hour. And I'm asking, who do you trust, Sunak or Starmer, or perhaps somebody totally different? Both our Prime Minister Rishi Sunak and Labour counterpart Sir Keir Starmer, they outlined their plans to help the country back on track. Sunak claims that he'll focus on improving the economy, tackling the migrant crisis, fixing the NHS. Starmer believes it's all about transferring power to Westminster, from Westminster to local communities. But what do you think? Who do you trust? Send me your thoughts. Email gbviews@gbnews.uk or tweet me at GBNews. There's also a poll up right now asking you that question. Who do you trust? Sunak, Starmer, Reform, or none of the above? Cast your vote. But first, it's a break.
We are GB News, and we'd like to say thank you to each and every one of you for bringing us your conversations, for helping our great nation find its voice, We are here for you on radio, television, and online. Across England, Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland.
It's not the BBC, you actually get your facts right.
We are proud to be GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Monday to Thursday, 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. Join me, Dan Wootton. I'll bring you the sharpest takes and hottest debates. Do you not believe in prison?
I don't believe in prison.
I'm completely stunned. I guarantee you there'll be no spin, no bias, no censorship.
I actually was personally quite offended by it.
And no reason to go to bed.
So I guess they've always been quite woke.
That's Dan Wootton tonight on TV, radio and online. Monday to Thursday from 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello there, it's Eamon Holmes here from Breakfast on GB News. We're not just on your television and your screens, you know.
We're on DAB plus digital radio, so you can listen to your favourite shows on the move.
If you've not yet listened to GB News Radio, it's very simple. We're on your radio player and tune-in apps, on your smart speaker, phone or tablet, or online at gbnews.uk.
Take us with you wherever you go. GB News Radio.
You never have to miss a moment of the People's Channel.
Join me every Sunday at 6 p.m. for Gloria Meets. In exclusive interviews, I'll be finding out who our politicians really are and what they really think.
It's something that you would never want anyone to suffer.
I didn't know what channels there were. I didn't think I'd be believed.
I must have weighed about 7 stone and I'm 5'8".
My instincts was to sort of cover this up. I mean, clearly that was a mistake.
Join me every Sunday at 6 p.m. on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon. If you just joined me, where have you been? It's okay, it's just the beginning of the show. It's just coming up to 21 minutes after 4 o'clock. I'm Nana Akua. We are GB News, the People's Channel. Now, before the break, I was discussing Prince Harry, his new memoir, Spare. Let's have a look at what you've been saying. John says, we can all be grateful for Netflix Harry and his new revelations in the book Spare. He is the gift that keeps on giving and is an inspiration to the younger generation on how not to behave. Exactly. Listen, don't buy the book, I tell you now. Clive says pawns can be promoted to queens, and since Meghan wears the trousers, this is fairly appropriate. Yes, but pawns could never become kings. Joan says Prince Harry has even endangered the lives of veterans. Such a shame. He has. I don't know why he thought it was a good idea. Obviously, he's got nobody decent around him to give him some good advice. But stay with me. We'll be talking about that throughout the show. Later on, Enrique Roses will be in live telling us his view, and also we'll be speaking to Angela Levin. But first, it's time now for our great British debate this hour. I'm asking, who do you trust? Sunak, Starmer, maybe Reform, or basically none? On Wednesday, Rishi Sunak announced his top 5 priorities for the year ahead.
So, 5 promises. We will halve inflation, grow the economy, reduce debt, cut waiting lists and stop the boats. Those are the people's priorities. They are your government's priorities, and we will either have achieved them or not.
Let's not forget about the maths. So there you have it, his top 5. At number 1, to halve inflation. This is despite inflation already slowing down globally, and the Bank of England estimating it would have halved by the end of 2030. In any case, 2023, sorry. At number 2, to grow the economy. Remember, it was Sunak who scrapped Liz Truss's mini-budget that was set to make Britain the highest-growing economy in the G7 by 2025, and he replaced it with higher taxes and increased spending. At number 3, to reduce debt, well, coming from a man who borrowed over £400 billion when he was Chancellor during the COVID pandemic. Number 4, to cut waiting lists. Since 2010, the number of patients on NHS waiting lists has grown from 2.5 million to a staggering 7.2 million. And finally, number 5, to stop the boats. The Tories have made countless promises to reduce migration. Remember the promise to cutting immigration by the tens and thousands. Net migration actually rose to record highs of more than 500,000 in the year to June 2022, with just under 46,000 illegal migrants crossing the Channel last year. So Keir Starmer criticised Sunak's pledges in a speech, standing in front of what looks like a transformer.
You saw it yesterday from the Prime Minister. Commentary without solution. More promises, more platitudes. No ambition to take us forward. No sense of what the country needs. 13 years of nothing but sticking plaster politics. It's why every crisis hits Britain harder than our competitors. The only country in the G7 still poorer than it was before the pandemic. The worst decade for growth in 2 centuries. 7 million on waiting lists and rising.
Sir Keir Starmer proposed a partnership model where both the public and private sector would work together to fix the problems in the NHS. I think that's already happening anyway. He also announced a take-back control bill that would add more power to local authorities, which is quite ironic considering Starmer is an ardent Remainer who is now using the Key Vote Leave slogan. So for the Great British Debate this hour, I'm asking, who do you trust? Sunak, Starmer, perhaps somebody else, Reform, or maybe none of the above? I'm joined by the leader of Reform UK, Richard Tice, former Tory MP Neil Parish, and also former Labour advisor and writer Scarlett Maguire. Right, I'm going to start with you, Neil, because, you know, well, I might as well. I've not spoken to you before. Who do you trust then, Rishi or Keir, or neither?
Well, I bet you'd expect me to come down on the side of Rishi, but I think his big challenge is the delivery, because, of course, we've been in power now for 12 years, and therefore, you know, getting down inflation, halving that, getting the debt down, getting the waiting list sorted out. And, of course, don't forget, we've had this huge pandemic, which has also borrowed a lot of money, but we've also created the waiting list. And of course, the big issue really for many on the right of the Tory party and some of the right-wing voters is very much what are we going to do about immigration? And of course, it's or the asylum seekers coming across. Very difficult. More needs to be done in France. We also need to be able to actually process them much quicker, because the idea.
But the thing is, we know all that because we're watching it. So it's sort of like, I mean,
no, I know that.
Agreed, 100%.
Yeah.
I mean, Scarlett, you know, Keir Starmer is saying that he's talking about sort of decentralised power structure, moving things away from Westminster. We've seen how disastrous that's looked in the terms of devolution. Does he actually think that's a vote winner, sort of devolved?
I mean, I actually think it's not just about votes. It's about the only way that we're going to sort out this country, because we talk about, or the Conservatives talk about levelling up. Where the money is not is outside Westminster, particularly in the north, but actually it's the same in the southwest. And actually you cannot have everything being done from Westminster and Westminster saying what goes on. I think it is really important that we give power and trust to the people, you know, in the northeast, in the northwest.
I think you're creating more bureaucracy, though, more little centres of power, more bureaucracy, instead of actually doing something. No. Richard, I'm going to ask you then. What do you make of all of this? I mean, this is a bit of a mess. The two parties seem, a lot of people are politically homeless. Reform, I mean, what would they do differently?
Well, Nana, good afternoon. I noticed you didn't play the clip of my speech when I set out how the country's broken, and I put out the clear, most specific solution, because we all know that the country's not working. Nothing works in the country. We're paying the highest taxes. We've got the highest wasteful government spending. We've got the highest energy prices and the longest waiting list. But no solutions. Lots of warm words and waffle from Starmer and Sunak. I put forward a clear, big, bold solution, which is you've got to make Britain work. And to make Britain work, you've got to make work pay. And I believe that we've got to increase the starting point at which people pay income tax from 12.5 grand to 20 grand. That's 30 quid a week extra, which really helps the lowest paid, the least well off, because we've got 5 million people on out-of-work benefit. That's 1 in 8 of the population, completely written off by the main two parties. We've got to get them back into work. We've got to stop importing cheap overseas labour. We set out how to pay for it. And as for the boat, I mean, really, I mean, it's just laughable. This time last year, the then Prime Minister said, well, let's have a nationalities and borders bill and that'll solve the solution. That didn't work. So now Sunak says, let's have some more legislation. We've got a very clear 6-point plan that will stop the boats. It mainly revolves around leaving the ECHR, pick up and take back. It's a copy of the Australian solution that worked. So don't reinvent the wheel, do something that you know works.
Neil, what do you think? I mean, he's saying, you know, don't reinvent the wheel. The Tory party haven't really done much. I know you're no longer serving in the way you were before, but what's your view on this?
I do actually think that you've got to take the public spending as it is now, what we're spending on the health service. There's still a real problem with the number of people being able to get to be seen. But what you can't do is, like the opposition parties do, is suddenly decide, well, you know, we'll have a new policy. But of course, you've already got the major spending. We've already put another 14 billion billion into the health service. All of those things need. And yes, you could try and cut taxes, but don't forget Liz Truss tried that. As soon as the money market saw that, they ran the pound. The Bank of England had to come in and support it. So therefore, you can only actually cut taxes when we can make money in order to run the economy. And I think that is where I believe that Rishi Sunak will get it right. What we do now have is at least a competent Prime Minister that actually people believe in. And if you actually look at the polling that's going on at the moment, you'll actually see that actually Rishi Sunak is actually more popular than Keir Starmer, even though the party, the Conservative Party, is much lower.
Let Richard come back on that, Richard.
No, you forget, Sunak's been the Chancellor during this high rate of inflation. He created the debt. He's the guy who lifted the taxes. He's the guy that hasn't deregulated post-Brexit in order to create some growth. I've set out in my plans pre-Christmas on the healthcare, and here with our plan here, how you pay for this stuff. What they're choosing to do in this government, they're not making the sensible choices. They're not cutting government waste. They're, for example, letting the Bank of England unnecessarily pay 20 billion a year reserves on the money it printed to rich city institutions, which it doesn't need to do. All of this stuff are political choices the government's deciding to make and not make. And the waste in government spending is grotesque. And why write off 5 million people on benefits?
I wouldn't necessarily argue that there's not waste in government, but what I would say to you is that with the furlough scheme, the 400 billion borrowed actually to get us through COVID, I didn't see too many voices at the time actually saying no, we shouldn't actually spend that money. In fact, I actually heard a lot of voices actually saying we should spend more. So therefore, once that money is spent, then it's got to be repaid. And like I said, I don't think you can actually put that at the door of Rishi Sunak.
A lot of people didn't say spend more. I mean, I think
there was quite a lot of political noise about it.
Last word to you, Scarlett.
Right. I mean, I think what we need is a fresh start, and we need somebody. I mean, let's look at the National Health Service. You know, Rishi's having a meeting to look at it instead of actually saying the real problem in the National Health. So there are two main problems. One is staff. There isn't enough, and they're leaving. And the solutions is retaining the staff and getting more in.
How?
Right. Well, the first thing, this is complicated. It's about pensions. It's about encouraging them to stay. It's about not saying that we're going to charge everybody to train as nurses. It's to train more doctors. It's actually to keep them.
Can I just say, we know those.
Look at
no, but also the other thing.
Richard, quickly.
And then
I put out a full healthcare plan pre-Christmas that sets out how you get more, how you pay health and social care staff significantly more, how you fund that. And that will retain and attract staff urgently, because the NHS waiting list crisis is the greatest crisis this country has got today.
Well, listen, I agreed with that. OK, 10 seconds to you, and then I'm going to go.
Yeah, Nana, the biggest issue also is social care. That's what we've got to get right, so that the 20% of people that are in hospital that need to actually go into nursing home, we've got to sort that out. And a lot of that would then help the whole general health service altogether.
Yeah, and the first lie that Boris Johnson said was he had a plan, and he never, ever did.
But the Labour Party aren't in office, and they haven't been for a long time. Well, listen, thank you so much to the leader of the Reform UK, Richard Tyers, former Tory MP Neil Parish, former Labour advisor and writer Scarlett Maguire. Wow, thank you for joining me. You're with me, I'm Nana Akua. This is GB News on TV, online and on digital radio. On the way, we'll continue our great British debate this hour. I'm asking, who do you trust, Sunak or Starmer? You'll hear the thoughts of my panel, broadcaster and columnist Lizzie Cundy, and also political commentator Sam Dowler. Stay with me at 5 for this week's difficult conversation. Relationship guru Natalia Kovalinka will be here. Give me all your thoughts on whether you want to get yourself a new relationship this year. Are you stuck? Are you unhappy? She'll give you loads of advice. But first, let's get your latest news headlines.
It's 4:32. Good afternoon. I'm Aaron Armstrong in the GB newsroom. The Prime Minister is holding emergency talks with health experts at Downing Street in an effort to ease the pressure on the NHS. Rishi Sunak's discussing 4 critical issues at the NHS Recovery Forum, including social, urgent and emergency care. He's promised to cut long waiting times, increase bed capacity and increase NHS funding. But the Prime Minister's been warned these talks are unlikely to ease the crisis, with senior doctors saying the NHS is on a knife edge. Labour's criticised the government's plans as a talking shop, and the Lib Dems say it's too little too late. The RMT says rail companies at the heart of the long-running dispute over pay have made hundreds of millions of pounds in profits. The union claims big profits were generated when the government awarded private train operators new contracts during the pandemic. They say companies made up to £310 million worth of taxpayer-funded profits between March 2020 and September 2022. It all comes as the RMT and the 14 train operators continue their 48-hour walkout over pay, jobs and conditions. And in his memoir, Prince Harry claims his role as Prince William's best man at his wedding was a barefaced lie. He reportedly says the role was fulfilled by the Prince of Wales' two closest friends. He also suggests King Charles feared his wife Meghan would dominate the monarchy and steal the limelight from Charles and Camilla. Referring back to his military days, Harry says he killed 25 Taliban fighters, a claim which has been criticised by both the British Army and the Taliban themselves. Flood warnings are in place across England and Wales as heavy downpours are set to hit the UK overnight. There are 27 flood warnings in place for England, 6 in place for Wales, and the Scottish Environment Protection Agency has also issued 6 flood alerts for Scotland, so do be careful wherever you are. TV online and DAB+ radio, this is GB News. Now it is back to Nana Akua.
Monday to Thursday nights on GB News. At 6, it's Dubes & Co. 7 o'clock, Farage. At 8, join Mark Stein. And at 9, Dan Wootton Tonight, followed by Headliners. On TV, radio and online. This is GB News.
We are GB News, the People's Channel.
Why not take us home with you by visiting the GB News shop at gbnews.store. You'll find all the official merchandise, a really good present actually for yourself, your friends or your family.
We ship across the UK mainland at no extra cost. GB News, the People's Channel.
Here on GB News Live, we'll be keeping you in the picture, finding out what's happening across the country and finding out why it matters to you. We'll have the facts fast with our team of reporters and specialist correspondents. Wherever it's happening, we'll be there from 12 noon on TV, radio and online. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Monday to Thursday on GB News, it's Bev Turner Today from 10 a.m. We're going to be here for you, our GB News family, to keep you up to date, but also make you smile.
The guy went from puberty to adultery.
And I can't wait to bring a few of my own opinions.
I have no time for cultural totalitarianism.
We'll engage in passionate, but always polite debate, with your thoughts and opinions at the centre of it all. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi there, it's Stephen and Anne.
At breakfast from 6 a.m, you'll always be caught up with everything you need to know, the latest headlines, opinions and debates.
We'll bring you the good news and the bad, but most of all, we're here for you.
Remember, send in your views and let us know what you would like us to talk about.
That's because we're your news channel. And every morning at 6 a.m, it's breakfast on GB News.
So welcome back. This is GB News on TV, online and on digital radio. Don't forget, you can also stream us live on YouTube. I'm Nana Akua. Now we return to our Great British debate this hour. I'm asking, who do you trust, Sunak or Starmer? On Wednesday, the Prime Minister Sunak, he announced 5 priorities to help the country to get it back on track.
So, 5 promises. We will halve inflation, grow the economy, reduce debt, cut waiting lists and stop the boats. Those are the people's priorities. They are your government's priorities, and we will either have achieved them or not.
Some of them we will achieve with or without him, but they have it more talk on dealing with immigration, dealing with the economic crisis, solving the key issues in the NHS. So Keir Starmer criticised his pledges in the speech, standing in front of what looks like, well, a transformer.
You saw it yesterday from the Prime Minister. Commentary without solution. More promises, more platitudes. No ambition to take us forward. No sense of what the country needs. 13 years of nothing but sticking plaster politics. It's why every crisis hits Britain harder than our competitors. The only country in the G7 still poorer than it was before the pandemic. The worst decade for growth in 2 centuries. 7 million on waiting lists and rising.
Yes, Sir Keir Starmer's proposed a partnership model where both the public and private sector work together to fix the problems in the NHS. He also announced a take-back control bill that would hand more power to local authorities. So, for the Great British Debate this hour, I'm asking, who do you trust, Sunak or Starmer? Let's see what my panel make of that. I'm joined by broadcaster and columnist Lizzie Cundy, also political commentator Sam Dowler. Sam, I'm going to come to you first. Right. So either of them or none of the above, because we've got reform and there's that option.
Well, first of all, your question, who do you trust? I mean, if it was a personal thing, let's say one of us was in trouble, who would you call? Who was going to help you out more? I would say Keir Starmer. Or if you want
do you
to,
think?
or if you want, yeah, absolutely. Because look at his previous work, and he is, and what he did, what he did for as in his role as a lawyer, and obviously he's been
CPS, you are having a laugh.
Let's not go into that because
he's also
been in the public arena now for a long time.
Thanks to the Blairs.
And he's never done anything that would make you think that he wasn't trustworthy. Whereas Rishi has done things that you're a bit slightly questionable. I mean, for those who love Boris, for example, would blame him for Boris's demise, stabbed him in the front, etc. So I mean, Keir's got a bit of a cleaner sheet on this front.
We've got 2 other options on there. The other option we've got on there online is reform. Reform?
Exactly, we have reform, and I have to say, neither Rishi or Keir Starmer for me, I'm afraid. Look, I don't know where to start. With Rishi, I mean, he's so boring. I mean, you switch off. I was so upset as well about him saying we have to do maths till you're 18. I mean, what about the arts? What about this creative country we have? Does he want us all to be forensic accountants? On, like an army of data robots? Is that what he wants? And look at his track record, what he did to this economy, thanks to him furloughing everybody, including Victoria Beckham's business. I mean, please, this is why we're in this terrible situation we're in.
So you think Keir Starmer, then?
Keir Starmer, who gives advice on everything and responsible for absolutely nothing, can't even tell you who a woman is, goes on about the strikes, will he be on the picket lines? No, because he just sits on the fence. If he does anymore, he'll get splinters. So Sam, he can't rely on him. He's just boring as a traffic
I want someone who's boring after Boris.
What about Reform UK? I mean, we've had Richard Tice there. That is one of the options online. Would you be prepared to trust them? I mean, that's kind of the only other real option.
Absolutely not. I think there should be a general election tomorrow. I would love to see Keir Starmer.
You want Keir Starmer as our leader?
I would like to see Keir Starmer in number 10 by the end of the year, with the likes of Angela Rayner and Jess Phillips in the cabinet. Then I would start to feel like our country was going in the right direction.
But they have no substance. He says time for a change. Change for what? What is he going to actually do, Sam? Tell me. I'm really interested.
Look at where we are at the moment. Look at where we are at the moment with 12 years of Tories. We're in the worst place we could possibly be in. So why not have a change? I'd rather reform took it. You're right. Better than anybody.
We would be in a lot worse position if we'd gone along with, say, for example, Keir Starmer. Remember, he voted alongside the things, especially during the pandemic. They voted together alongside the Tory party. Not that the Tory party needed them, but they did. And Keir Starmer would have kept us in lockdown for longer. I mean, everything would have been harder, longer, and with Keir Starmer. So
exactly.
We don't necessarily know that.
No, he has.
He said that, Sam. He didn't want us to get out. We'd be still locked down next to him.
Mistakes were made on all sides, but everywhere with the pandemic. I mean, furlough, Eat Out to Help Out was then blamed for loads of extra deaths.
That's what I'm saying. Richie wasn't elected. He parachuted into number 10. No one wanted him. I mean, even Liz Truss, the letters beat him, let's be honest. And he's a snake. He would backstab Boris. But there we go. Remember Keir Starmer? Partygate. And then there he was, drinking beer with all his chums and eating curry.
And the police said that he did nothing wrong. So the police are on his side, are they? Not on Boris' side.
other stuff going on.
Very
some commissions
hypocritical.
and other things which I...
But he wasn't fined, and he said, which
No.
is very trustworthy, that if he was fined or was prosecuted, that he would step down,
because
and he
knew it
wasn't.
wouldn't be, but you knew it wouldn't be. But the other thing is that he did say that there were only 6 people there. It turned out there were about 20. He said that it was not organised. There was a memo. And he said that Angela Rayner wasn't there. She was.
She was
I mean,
there.
these are little lies, which are
Little lies, which are still lies.
We know they are. That's not true.
He calls them fibs. It's still a lie, Sam. Not to be trusted.
What about reform? Would you give reform or not?
Yes, I would.
Would you?
No. Totally.
OK, well, listen, the show is nothing without you and your views. Let's welcome our great British voice, your opportunity to be on the show and tell us what you think about the topics we're discussing. Where should we go? Should we go to Bristol? Let's have a chat with GB News voice and regular Lee Harris. Lee, welcome. Good to see you. Right, Lee, so you've got about a minute on this. So the floor is yours. Who do you trust?
Oh, it's a thoroughly depressing question, Nana. Thing is, trust is earned, and I don't really trust either of them. I mean, I trust Rishi more than Starmer, but to say that I'm disillusioned with politics at the moment would be an understatement. I agreed with Patrick Christie's yesterday, actually, when he said the dull men have taken over. You know, at least Boris was entertaining. You know, I watched both speeches yesterday, and they were both flat and uninspiring. Starmer was, as usual, kind of robotic, uninspiring, no detail, untrustworthy, and he was full of contradictions. He had, you know, very little to say, if anything, about the strikes. And as far as I'm aware, he didn't even mention the small boats at all. But, you know, I take issue with, I've got to take issue with Sam a minute ago saying that Starmer has a clean sheet. You know, he is a two-faced liar. You know, let's not forget, this is the man that campaigned for Jeremy Corbyn to be PM. He voted Remain. Said he would respect the referendum, and when he didn't, get the result that he wanted, he campaigned for another vote. He's like a political weather vane. He's the most untrustworthy politician in politics right now.
So would you?
I said, trust is earned.
Okay, so 10 seconds. Would you vote Reform then? Because the others are a disaster.
Look, I'm going to be honest. I do have a soft spot for Richard Tice. If he's still watching, thank you for your help with Brexit and everything. But I'm not sure I'm ready to vote for Reform yet, because I just believe that's going to let Labour in, and I just do not want Labour government.
Listen, Lee, thank you so much for your thoughts. Always good to talk to you. That's Lee Harris, our great British voice. Right, you're with me. I'm Nana Akua. This is GB News on TV, online and on digital radio. After the break, it's time for our Royal Roundup. The body language expert Jesus Enrique Rosas and royal biographer Angela Levin will be joining me to pick apart Harry's leaked extracts from his memoir, Spare. All that on the way next. Don't go anywhere.
Every morning from 6 o'clock, we'll wake you up with GB News Breakfast with all the stories you didn't know from the night before.
So whether it's serious news, entertainment, or your own views from all over our great nation, we're here to kick off your day with a smile.
The national media should be reflecting and reporting what's happening here.
You will notice the northwestern accents.
Whether you're with us on TV, radio, or online, every morning, it's breakfast from 6 a.m. Hope you can join us.
We are GB News, right across the nation. You can get us on television, on radio, on digital. We're absolutely everywhere.
Amazing! You see, amazing!
You remind me of me in the European Parliament. But here's the most important bit. We are not part of the mainstream establishment. We think and speak just like you do. We are the People's Channel.
Magnificent. That's really, really thoughtful.
Come and join us on GB News, the People's News Channel.
My name's Tom Harwood, and join me 9:30 a.m. every weekday for The Briefing, your one-stop shop for everything you need to know about what's going on in politics today.
I wonder if this is a deal that might need to be like the biscuits in this factory, twice baked.
Is there not an opportunity here to win out against the extremes?
Tom Harwood, GB News.
What are you going to do about it?
Things should have been done differently, and they certainly are being done differently.
Don't miss it. The Briefing with me, Tom Harwood, 9:30 Monday to Friday on GB News.
Join me, Nana Akua, Saturday and Sunday afternoons on GB News. Expect fiery debate and passionate discussion as me and my panel tackle some of the biggest topics hitting the headlines. It's a place for everyone's opinion. No one gets cancelled, but no one gets an easy ride.
Oh, she's on it today!
Be ready for conversations that are fierce, frank, and of course, fun. Every Saturday and Sunday afternoon from 4 p.m. on GB News, the People's Channel. So 47 minutes after 4 o'clock, this is a GB News, the People's Channel. Don't forget you can download the GB News app for free and watch all of the channels, all of the programmes on the channel. I'm Nana Akua. Now, there's always something going on in the royal household, and this week has been no different. Leaked extracts from Prince Harry's memoir, Spare, have revealed a number of sensational claims that he's put the royal family in a precarious light. Now, Harry wrote about the alleged physical altercation that he had with his brother William back in 2019. The Duke of Sussex also tore into his stepmother, the Queen Consort Camilla, admitting that he begged his father not to marry her. And that's as Princess Anne is the first member of the royal family to return to work. So every Saturday, I love to give you a rundown, and who better to delve into this than body language expert himself, Jesus Enrique Rosas. He joins me now. Jesus, thank you very much for joining me. Right, Jesus, good to see you.
Hello, Nana. Thanks for inviting.
Right, so now...
Good to see you too. And well, this week has been insane with that book leak and all that. We are yet to see the full tour of Harry and all these interviews, like 4 interviews that he's going to give. And we already have clips and teasers and trailers with Anderson Cooper and with Tom Bradby. And I saw a couple of things on that Anderson Cooper teaser that I wanted to share with you.
OK, well, let's take a look, because Harry talks every time he says about his private life, doesn't he? The palace briefs against
You say you tried to do this privately.
And every single time I've tried to do it privately, there have been briefings and leakings and planting of stories against me and my wife.
So
that was the first clip that I share with you, and I want to make it very clear that we have these gestures of Harry rubbing his nose that are a bit odd, because that is not something that he does all the time. That is not part of his body language baseline, his usual body language. So maybe he is a bit nervous, but we also have seen that he has a bit of red eyes. Maybe he has been tired. Or maybe he has he's not feeling well, or maybe he's anxious. But that's something to realize. And at the moment that he did that, was when he was talking about the privacy part. You know, these inconsistencies in their declarations, that they have said that they did not leave their royal duties due to privacy. But at the same time, in these interviews, he claims that it was about privacy, that he wanted privacy, but Buckingham Palace would not allow that, according to him.
Because it doesn't, I mean, when I listen to it, it didn't really make much sense at all. I mean, then he talks about the family motto, never complain, never explain, which, you know, it just seems a bit...
Yes, he also mentioned that, and according to him too, that Buckingham Palace do not enforce that. That is only on paper. They only say that just for the public, but behind closed doors, he claims that they are the ones who are sending all these fake news and claims and headlines and pieces to the mainstream media, and specifically to throw him and Meghan under the bus. So they are pretty clear accusations, and very huge accusations at the same time.
Well, let's take a look at this next clip then.
Yes.
You know, the family motto is never complain, never explain, but it's just a motto. And it doesn't really hold...
There's a lot of complaining and a lot of explaining.
Endless.
Private, being done through leaks.
Through
leaks. Yeah, many things happening here, especially that he says the family. He doesn't say my family. He's like detaching himself from the concept of the royal family, which is interesting. This is a real emotion that he is feeling about this. And notice that when he loses it just a bit, Anderson Cooper begins to fill in the gap for him, because, okay, there's a lot of complaining and a lot of explaining. Harry doesn't say that. It's Anderson Cooper. I find it odd, because it looks like Anderson Cooper is it's in the script. Okay, there's some kind of a script. If you see that Harry is going off the rails, then you have to like fill in the blanks for him. That's only my opinion, but that's how it looks. And we also see Harry that has this tension in his jaw. I have my annotations here. Has this tension when he's talking about these events, what is going on with these claims about the family. So for all the people that are saying that this is just Meghan controlling him, I disagree. There is a lot of agency and there's a lot of real emotions in Harry, covert anger specifically towards the royal family. So this is worth noticing.
Mm. Yeah, because he sort of does this thing with his jaw, doesn't he? So he's tensing it up, and it does seem, and he doesn't look comfortable there. I mean, I just don't think that he could be in. I mean, I don't want to question, but that he's in his right mind to be saying such things, especially the information that apparently he gives away with regard to to Afghanistan. I mean, that seems like madness that you would share that.
Yes. Yes, it's baffling, and there are rumors that he was not he wanted to stop the book from being published, and now that we have seen the excerpts, we can understand that he was interested in not publishing the book. But well, it's already out.
It's too late, too late. Well, let's bring in Angela Levin, royal biographer Angela Levin. Now, yes, so stay right there, Angela Levin. Oh, what do you make of this awfulness, the book? I mean, what is going on with it all?
Well, I spent 15 months with Harry in 2017 and 18, and it's nothing like him. He's as if he's gone into a sort of cave and closed his eyes about behaviour. It's very self-destructive. I think he's very ill. I think attention needs to be given to him quite quickly, really. I don't know who has been helping him, but they obviously aren't doing a good job. But he's betrayed his family, he's betrayed his country, he's betrayed them everything, you know, the army and everything that he can. And he hasn't got any idea of what perception is. You know, he's talking like a boy in the playground about his penis, for example. Oh, no. Who needs to know that?
Oh, God.
Who needs to know that how he lost his virginity? I mean, these are things you don't talk about if you've got any common sense. He seems to have lost it. I don't know whether it's the drugs that have really brought him down to this level, or whether Meghan has made so many demands that he's actually given up and believes that everybody's jealous of her because she's so amazing. I mean, the Queen said, didn't she, before she died, that perhaps he loves her too much. And I think that he's in a terrible fight to manage to keep her happy and to give her what she wants, which seems to be more than the world. And I think it's very, very difficult for him. I think he's in real trouble to do this. Whether you think it's for the money, it might well be, but the money's not going to give him or her satisfaction. The more they get, the more they want. And this is about him. He's lost himself somewhere. And it's a real tragic situation.
I want to bring Jesus back in there. I mean, looking at the way Harry is behaving, would you say that Harry is not being himself in how he's his body language? Does it feel like he's being controlled by somebody else, or do you think that Harry is totally in charge of his own sort of destiny in the way he's behaving? Because what's your view? Because a lot of people are saying, look, this woman's taken over him. Others are saying that he's making up these decisions on his own. What do you think when you look at him?
Well, I've seen Harry's body language from quite some time, and I studied all those videos like from 20 years ago, and I've seen this change in body language. He used to be so comfortable, so nice with William and Catherine. I always make the joke that pre-2016 everything was roses, but right now we don't see any of that, and we see more and more anger. And no longer covert anger, but express anger, which is worrying. And the big question is, did this anger, did these feelings were already back then in, I don't know, 2015 and before that, or did they appear in this moment, or from this 5 years to this moment? That is a good question, because it seems like he wants some kind of retribution, some kind of to get back, okay, at the family. But from which time? How long has this been happening inside him?
Do you think that he is so resentful about Prince William because he's actually managing his life? He's managing a huge burden of work and being the heir to the throne. But he's got it right. He's managing his family life. He's managing to be a father and a husband. But Harry just can't do it. And so he resents him. He's taking it out on him, the things that he feels he can't do.
Yeah, the problem is when you don't have the emotional tools to understand your own value. That's why we saw these statements like Harry saying, well, I'm going to lose all value once George is 18. That is nonsense. That has nothing to do with you. I always thought that Harry had the privilege of being born into the royal family and not having William's responsibility. That is a great
And that's what he loved. He loved that.
I don't know. Why does he feel like this? Why does he feel that having this huge, even leaving his royal duties, having this huge platform, he could do so many great things, and he just has been focusing on just bashing his family over and over again.
He can't manage himself, you see. He no longer can manage himself, and therefore he can no longer do these great things. I mean, on their the podcast on the screen, they say, you know, it's very important to be compassionate to those you know and those you don't know. It's one of their sort of favourite lines. But he can't do that. I mean, he's not being compassionate to anybody now, even to himself. I mean, he's in a really bad state, I think.
Well, listen, we'll carry on and see what happens with Harry. Jesus Enriquez Rosas, thank you so much for joining me, the body language expert. Really good to talk to you. Thank you so much. He's joining us live from Spain. And also Angela Levin, royal biographer. Lovely to talk to you as well. Oh, well, listen, stay with us, so much more on the way. This is GB News. I'm Nana Akua. There's more to come just after 5. Right, it's just coming up to 5 o'clock. This is GB News on TV, online and on digital radio. I'm Nana Akua. And for the next hour, me and my panel will be taking on some of the big topics hitting the headlines right now. On the way, I'll be speaking to a relationship expert who'll be answering all your burning questions about how to find love. Then for the Great British Debate this hour, I'll be talking masks. Should we reintroduce them during the winter season to ensure the NHS isn't overstretched? Would you object to wearing one? All that after your latest news headlines.
Hello there, it's 5 o'clock. Good evening to you. I'm Aaron Armstrong in the GB newsroom. Plenty more to come, of course, but let's start with emergency talks at Number 10. The Prime Minister is hosting crisis talks with health experts at Number 10 in an attempt to ease the pressure on the NHS. Rishi Sunak is hosting the NHS Recovery Forum with discussions focusing on social care and delayed discharge, along with emergency and urgent care. Tackling waiting lists was one of the 5 pledges made in the PM's first major speech of the year. But health leaders say the meeting will be unable to fix a crisis that has been 10 years in the making. But Shadow Public Health Minister Andrew Gwynne hopes today's talks will have a positive outcome.
Everybody who has an interest in the National Health Service really should be round the table, trying to work out not only the short-term measures that are needed to get us through the rest of this winter, but also how we then put health and social care on a sustainable footing, the kind of reforms that are needed, the kind of investment that's needed for the long term, not just sticking plasters.
The RMT says rail companies at the heart of the long-running dispute over pay have made hundreds of millions of pounds in profit. The union claims huge amounts of money were generated when the government awarded private train operators new contracts during the pandemic. They say companies made up to £310 million in taxpayer-funded profits between March 2020 and September 2022. It comes as the RMT and 14 train operators continue their 48-hour walkout over pay, jobs and conditions. Police in the United States have arrested a 6-year-old boy after he shot and seriously injured a teacher at a primary school in the state of Virginia. Officers say the woman's injuries were initially thought to be life-threatening, but her condition has improved in hospital. The chief police officer has said the shooting was not accidental and the two had what they have described as an altercation. It's unclear how the child got hold of the handgun. MPs have been urged to support paid leave for miscarriage. The proposal by an SNP member would grant 3 days of statutory paid leave to parents who experience a miscarriage before 24 weeks of pregnancy. Angela Crawley says it would give parents the time needed to grieve. Currently, paid bereavement leave is only given following stillbirth after 24 weeks. Prince Harry claims he was not the real best man at the wedding of his brother, the Prince of Wales. In more leaked excerpts from his memoir, the Duke of Sussex reportedly says the role was fulfilled by his brother's 2 closest friends. He also suggests King Charles feared Meghan would dominate the monarchy and steal the limelight from Charles and Camilla. And referring back to his military days, Harry claims he killed 25 Taliban fighters, a claim which has been criticised by both the British Army and the Taliban themselves. Shelling is continuing in Ukraine despite Russia's proposed 36-hour ceasefire. Now, missile strikes have been heard in the eastern city of Bakhmut, as one resident was describing the situation.
Our town used to be so beautiful. There were roses everywhere, flowers. It was clean. Everything was kept in order.
Russia declared its forces would observe a unilateral ceasefire for Orthodox Christmas, which was immediately dismissed by Kyiv as propaganda and a cynical trap. The Kremlin claims its troops have only fired in retaliation to attacks from Ukrainian forces. Flood warnings are in place across England and Wales as heavy downpours are set to hit the UK overnight. There are 27 flood warnings in place for England, with 8 in place for Wales. The Scottish Environment Protection Agency has also issued 6 flood alerts for Scotland. This is GB News. We'll bring you more as it happens. But now it is back to Nana Akua.
Hello, good afternoon and welcome aboard. This is GB News on TV, online and on digital radio. I'm Nana Akua. Over the next hour, me and my panel will be taking on some of the big topics that are hitting the headlines right now. This show is all about opinion. It's mine, it's theirs, and of course it's yours. We'll be debating, discussing, and at times we will disagree, but no one will be cancelled. So joining me today is broadcaster and columnist Lizzie Cundy and also political commentator Sam Dowler. Now, still to come, it's time for my difficult conversation. And today I'll be talking about relationships with my relationship guru, Natalia Kobykinga. I tried to practice it so many times, I haven't got it right. Listen, are you starting this year single like Leonardo DiCaprio? He's split from yet another 20-something-year-old. I mean, I could lie about my age, you never know, he might go for me. Or are you stuck in a loveless relationship and need to find a way out? Or are you lucky, unlucky in love? Maybe you're eternally single. What about those apps? Aren't they working for you? Sick of endless swiping? Well, don't fear, Natalia is here to answer your questions to get you in a good relationship for the new year. Then, for the Great British Debate this hour, I'm asking, would you object to wearing a face mask? Now, medics have advised those who feel unwell to stay at home. Medics have advised those to stay at home or wear a face covering if they need to go out, with a predicted 3 million people testing positive for the virus over the Christmas. Critics have slammed the move, citing their ineffectiveness, whilst others say it's important to prevent the NHS from becoming overstretched. So would you object to wearing a face mask? Email me gbviews@gbnews.uk or tweet me at gbnews. Now it's time, though, for this week's difficult conversation. So, how any of us are starting this year? Are you starting it single? Well, if you are, you'll be in good company, because 2022 was a year of big splits, from Harry Styles and Olivia Wade to Gisele Bündchen and Tom Brady. Kim Kardashian, Pete Davidson, and let's not forget the one and only Leonardo DiCaprio, who finds himself single again after splitting from yet another 20-something. I think it was just before she turned 30. There's plenty of other celebs on the lookout too. I think it's actually every time they turn 25. But what is the secret to finding the right partner and a successful long-term couple? And family therapist, psychologist and author Natalia Kobykinga We'll be taking your relationship questions and find out how you can find love in 2023. She's dedicated her life to improving people's relationships and helping thousands of people all over the world. I'm pleased to say she joins me now in the studio, Natalia. Thank you very much for joining me. Again, another green and pink thing going on. Everyone's in green and pink. I love pink, I love green.
Ready.
So listen, Natalia. OK, so let's start at the beginning. A lot of people at the moment, they've been having a nice Christmas meal with somebody in their house that they're married to or with. And they're thinking to themselves, oh, God, I need to get out of here. But instead of getting out of there, they could potentially improve things. Is there a way, or when do you know it's done?
I think that a lot of people now think, you deserve the best. You need to stop him, have better. And you say, listen, maybe have better. Yes, they have one session with one lady and she say, I won't separate. I say, why? Because I think I deserve better. But how you know? From where? I see the Instagram, I see social media. I think I must have with somebody else. And it's problematic because now people all time you read some psychological bubbles. You don't want to work with yourself, but you believe that everywhere you have a prince with a white Mercedes, which opens the door and say, welcome. But it's not like this, guys. From these people divorce and don't want to work from a relationship. Of course, divorcing, it's more easier way. But if you divorce, you will find even worse partner again and again. You need to understand what is my problem and why I cannot make to be team player, why I cannot make my relationship or my marriage to work.
Because are you married? I always ask. Yes, a lot of people giving out advice and don't seem to. How long have you been married for them?
I married 8 years with my Greek husband, and for me it's huge job. I have two work. One, it's my business, and welcome from my book, Navigate to Success for Women, how women can make success. It's for you.
I'll take that.
Gift.
I'll take that.
Because a lot of women, they cannot make business, and one is business, and after business, it's work, it's family. From 10 to 6, I work my business. From 6 until 12, I work with my husband and my son. And I make surprise, I give time, I think program, I think about which conversation to speak with him, how to make some gifts each other, how we can discover each other better. If you don't invest in your relationship and you just expect we are married, we are ready, no. And also I help my clients how to be married, how to receive proposal. Today one lady on Instagram asked, Natalia, I'm 3 years in relationship without marriage, what to do? I say, you need to have to come to him and to give 1 month the best what you can to give. Be very beautiful, be very nice, be very sexual, seduce him, play with him, show him all what you can show. And after say, my dear, I love you so much. But if you don't marry me, the next month I understood that you don't want me and I will leave.
Really?
And you must
You are
leave.
saying, so did you? She's saying, give them an ultimatum in a way, so you be the best you can be. There's a lot of ladies out there with their partners who they've been like hanging out with for years. They go, I don't really want to be married. But they do really.
Yeah, he needs to understand what he will lose. Because if he don't understand, he will say, oh, it's very comfortable to live with her. No, if you don't marry, if you even have 3 children, he say, I am a single. I say, but you have 3 children and a woman. Hey, we are not married. For men, that doesn't mean that if you live together or you have children, you are married. You must be married. And you need to use one very good tools you have, your mouth. Use it, girls. It's good. It's not only from eating or to put lipstick. You can open your mouth and you can see very directly, I want to be married on you. If not, sorry, I have other candidates.
So what about you then? So you're married. Is that how you did it with you? Or did he saw you and thought, I can't let her go?
I met with my husband and we have intimacy, and after he say, do you want to marry me? And I say, my friend, wait, where's my Maldives, where's my diamonds, where's my gifts? Not of course, you need to do a lot of job to be married on me. And it's a lot of efforts. When we take our fairy tales, we have one princess. She stay in castle. She doesn't say, oh, I go down, I already killed the dragon, I took horses, and I say, Prince, I am here. No. You say, I want efforts. But you say directly what you want from your partner, what you expect. Because what do mostly of women? You have your fairy tale, you expect something, you never say it, and after say, he is not for me. But how you told him what you want? How he must to know? I feel shame to say about this. If you feel shame, then not be in relationship. Relationship, you give something and you receive something. And if your partner doesn't know, if not have this synergy, how you can be together?
What about people who, because obviously in this internet age, people are swiping right or left or whatever, and How do people navigate this? How do you know if someone's serious about you, and how do you then try and formulate relationships? Because people aren't going to the normal places that they used to go. It's all a lot of it online now.
Very good question. Thank you for this. From actions. Girls, always you're looking from actions. If man not make actions for you, he doesn't love you. Man must feel hero. Only when you give him space to be hero for you, every man wants to be hero. Every man. It's his dream. But if you say, already I did it alone, you will be single forever. If you say, feel guiltness to ask, you're a good girl, you will stay single forever. Give man space, say, please help me with this. I don't understand this. Without you, I can never happen. You know, I'm looking for you all my lives. I have in TikTok 1 million views from this video when I told, ask man what you want. Oh my God. All my life, I'm looking only for you. Without you, I cannot live. You're all for me. But you need to feel it and to respect man. If you find him, respect him.
I've looked at you for all my life. I cannot do anything without you. Is that good? Some people, they're convinced by it.
A man wants to listen to this. Yeah. He must feel needs. Right. If you don't need him, if you say, I'm strong, independent woman, stay alone.
That's true, that's true. I mean, I do say that a lot, but I quite like it. What about for some single women? So like me, I really enjoy being on my own, but then am I delusional then? Do you think women saying that are delusional and actually they want someone?
I don't think that people likes to be alone or likes to be single, but people has pain. Yesterday I have one client and she told me, Natalia, I don't want to have a man. I am successful, I am a doctor, I have my career, I'm okay. I say, you're a liar. You're 43, you're very single, you drink every day wine because you come back and you're single and you live with your cat. You're a liar. You want like a crazy, but you are very hard with your previous relationship. And you say, how you know? He was leave me, he was married. Say, all of you, you want to have relationship, but you have pain, and this pain is so huge, and you put wine, smoking, and this, and it's become to be bigger and bigger and bigger. And it's become to be like a bridge between you and your next partner. And of course you cannot. And first we need to forgive. And if you hate even one man, maybe your father, brother, ex-partner, it stay here. And every man who came, he will came there. And unfortunately, you cannot allow. You need to clean first your pain and to be vulnerable. My clients, for example, used to have one session. She is 50 years old, wants to find a man. I say, go ahead. Go on the street and make picture with 10 men. If you not will make 10 dating meetings during a month, I don't do second session with you. I work from result. You want to be married. I can marry you after 6 months, but you're obliged to make my homework. And people who follow and do homework, they have result. I'm very famous with this, I give result.
Now, wow.
But 10 datings.
Oh, okay, all right. Well, maybe I'll be your project.
Welcome.
What about then for men, though? Men watching thinking, yeah, but it's all about women finding love. What about for men who are...
Unfortunately, men sometimes a little bit stupid. Because women, we send so many signs to men. I saw one couple in one restaurant. Women sit with men. All time she did this. She opened her neck. She touched herself. She play with this. She play with glasses. She do so many signs, and men speak about politics and football. I wanted to give him my business card and to say, guys, come to me. Lady already ready. She just wanted to take her, but you don't know how to tell her compliments, how to touch her. When lady close to you, never sit opposite of lady. Always, if you want to seduce somebody, guys, sit a little bit from the side. Give her eyes to be free. Touch her a little bit, like accidentally. What you want to drink? They have this one part on our back. When if you touch there, women start to feel trust to you. And have specific way with this third finger, you touch there and say, do you want to go to this table? Like a little bit push her. Unconscious mind work. He touched me, it's safety, I can trust him. Has many small tricks which you can do. And what you would like to drink. Be gentleman. Take a chair. Take this chair. Be gentleman. Take your coat. Women, be slowly. Because if women take all alone, give him time. He need time. Men need to be smart and to understand the signals and to flirt with lady. And see if something fall down where her knees. Usually her knees exactly if see on you means that she likes you, her body language. If she touch herself, if she start to breathe, and if you want one woman to kiss you, see one eyes, other eyes, her lips. One eyes, other lips, her lips.
You do that?
And the person wants to kiss you. He says, I don't know why I like you so much, I want to kiss you. And also very good advice, put it up emotion and down. Use Freudism. Freudism means that you say, oh, I so like banana. Banana, it's so nice. And you speak something very normal words, banana, cucumber, but very specific words, and you make it more slowly.
It's all right for you. You've got a nice accent. Banana, cucumber doesn't come out so well. Natalia, listen, if people want to find out more about you, where can they find you online? What do they look for?
Kubilkina.com, my website. We have Instagram, TikTok. You can ask me questions. We make it totally free for all of you, and very welcome to help you to find your second partner.
Okay, and we can spell that for you. That's KobyLkina. Got it?
Yes, Kubilkina.com.
Thank you very much, Natalia.
Thank you, Nana.
I shall use these tips. I'll be your project. We'll see what happens. Thank you so much. That is Natalia Kobylinka. There you go. This is GB News. If you just joined me, I'm Nana Akua. How to make your relationships perfect for 2023. Stay with me because there's loads more to come. On the way, the Great British Debate this hour, I'm asking, would you object to wearing a face mask? Medics have advised those who feel unwell to wear a face mask covering if they need to go out. The predicted 3 million people testing positive for the virus over Christmas. So, would you object to wearing one? First, though, a quick break.
I'm Mark Dolan. Join me at 11 on GB News for Headliners, in which I'll be joined by two of the UK's top comedians discussing tomorrow's papers. If it's an important story, we'll cover it, but we'll have some fun along the way. Headliners, the late night paper review that won't send you to sleep like the others will. 7 nights a week at 11 p.m. on GB News.
Hello, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and you can join me every weekday 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr. Me and my panel will get stuck right into the day's events, and I can tell you, in fact, I can warn you, expect some robust debate, some strong opinions and perspectives from both sides of the fence. It's about you at home as well. I love to read out all of your comments, or at least as many as I can. So join me, Michelle Dewberry, Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr.
I'm Mark White. As GB News Home and Security Editor, I cover those key issues that are so important to you. Our authorities, our communities doing all they can to combat violent crime. With the public services under unbearable strain, why are we still failing to control our borders? Defence, the first priority of any government, has been continually hollowed out. Can we trust our politicians to protect the armed forces? Join me, Mark White, on GB News.
We are GB News, the People's Channel.
And right across the United Kingdom.
You can find us on Sky Channel 512,
Virgin Media Channel 604,
Freesat Channel 216,
Freeview Channel 236,
and YouView Channel 236.
You can also take us with you on DAB+ radio,
with the GB News app and at the website gbnews.uk.
We're absolutely everywhere.
Come join us on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon. It's fast approaching 22 minutes after 5 o'clock. This is GB News on TV, online and on digital radio. I'm Nana Akua. Right, it's time for our Great British Debate this hour, and I'm asking, would you object to wearing a face mask? Now, the UK Health Secretary Agency has given the following advice due to the high numbers of flu and COVID cases. Adults should try to stay home when unwell, and if they do have to go out, wear a face covering. When unwell, don't visit healthcare settings or visit vulnerable people unless urgent. Now, that's as a report as Transport Secretary Mark Harper also echoed a similar sentiment, and it comes amid a rise in the number of COVID cases, with a predicted 3 million people having tested positive for the virus over the festive period. Now, at this point, you have more chance of catching COVID than you do a train. But critics are up in arms over the advice, with many saying masks are symbolic of lockdown, a time people are keen to forget, whilst others believe it is a small gesture that will prevent the NHS from becoming overstretched this winter. So for the Great British Debate this hour, I'm asking, would you object to wearing a face mask? Joining me now in the studio is a professor in medical microbiology at University of East Anglia and Great Barrington Declaration Code signatory, Dr. David Livermore. There's so much there about you, Doctor.
Hi.
So, first of all, David, so talk to me about this then. Face masks, face coverings. There's lots of research that actually suggests that they do work in some settings, surely.
Very little. I mean, the accepted wisdom before the pandemic, so going back to 2019, was from multiple trials in influenza, was that they made no difference. There have been 2 trials done during the pandemic, the Denmark study, which showed no benefit, and one in Bangladesh, which appeared to show a slight benefit from wearing face masks in terms of reduced COVID infection, but was very strongly criticised statistically, and actually the absolute number of people who got infected in the 2 arms difference was trivial. So minimal benefit. You get people who say that the N95 masks are better. However, in Bavaria, where they were mandated, fared no better than the rest of Germany. And you can look at jurisdiction after jurisdiction where face masks were mandated, and yet the incidence of COVID shot upwards. So minimal benefit.
Could it be more to do with the fact that the way people are using the masks and not the fact that they're ineffective? Because obviously, if you go to a healthcare setting and somebody's operating or something like that, they will wear a mask. Now, you wear the mask, you wouldn't want somebody operating on you without masks. So if you're saying they're not working, then why do doctors wear them?
The use in surgery is really quite different. It's to protect the doctor against blood spatter, and it's to protect against large drops of saliva or large drops or droplets falling onto the patient. Whereas what you have as you breathe outwards, if you've got a viral respiratory infection, COVID or influenza, is you've got much, much finer water particles or coming out loaded with virus, which will pass straight through an ordinary surgical mask. I mean, the pore size on them is 80, 100 microns. The size of a COVID virus is about 100th of that. It's like firing marbles at a chain link fence. Lots will go through.
Okay. Well, there was a study, one of the most comprehensive studies on mask effectiveness, and that was published in December 2021, and it demonstrated wearing masks does reduce COVID transmission. So this one was researchers from the American universities and health organisations. They recruited 340,000 adults in 600 villages in Bangladesh. Now, this is the one that you said was
That's the one I just mentioned to
but
you.
It said the trial resulted in a 30% increase in mask wearing and demonstrated a 9% reduction in COVID-19.
Well, what happened?
That's 9%, that's something. Then.
Well, one, it didn't reduce by 9%, because if you go back to the raw numbers, the 300,000 people, you had masked villages and unmasked villages, and in the masked villages, if I remember, there's 1,080 infections recorded. In the unmasked, it's 1,106. It's a tiny, trivial... And you go to a paper by Chicani, is it Chicali, something like that. It's in Trials. You'd easily find the paper, really taking the statistics apart on that paper. It is not a well-designed trial.
Well, listen, stay right there, David, because I'm going to bring in Dr. Bharat Pankani. He's a senior clinical lecturer at the University of Exeter. Bharat, thank you so much for joining me. Now, David said that the masks aren't particularly effective. What's your view on this?
Well, look, there's other evidence that also indicates its usefulness. What I want to say is this. Nothing is 100% effective, not even the vaccines. What we have to do is we take a multi-layered approach. One is the prevention approach, which is avoid the 3 C's, the crowded places, the closed environment, the closed places with poor ventilation, and sitting close to other people, especially when you may have an infectious disease. And then on top of that, in an environment where you may be spreading your droplets, and your droplets, if they are captured in a properly fitting, well-made mask, you are reducing the number of droplets. The key word is reducing the number of droplets. And when you reduce the number of droplets, you reduce the chances of them being airborne and going into somebody else's airways. So this is empirical stuff, empirical common sense, which says, whilst I cannot prevent it, I can reduce it. And that reduction is a good thing, especially when you've got so many other viral infections going on simultaneously, as well as SARS.
Barrett, what would you say, though, about David's point that the particles that come through with COVID are tiny, so the mask won't really stop them anyway, even if you have got this layering effect that you're speaking of?
Okay, I'm very happy to address this, and I do advocate that, number one, you wear a good quality mask, a bit like the N95s here, much better. And secondly, these are triples. So, of course, you're not going to stop all the droplets. But to say to me that none of the droplets are captured by the mask is not also being very truthful. So none of the masks will stop everything. But my point is, it reduces the number of escaping droplets. And that is all we've got to play with. You're reducing the number of droplets that are going to be released from your voice, from your nose, being airborne, and then finding somebody else's airways.
Well, David, if you respond to that, because let David respond to that.
Sealed. It's not possible to be hermetically sealed. All you are doing is capturing as much as you can, and the better the mask that you wear, the better the way you wear your mask, you reduce the number of droplets that you are releasing. It's
well, David,
I'm sure you reduce the number of large droplets, but they're not the point. The virus is aerosolized on tiny particles of moisture, of water coming out. Those go straight through the mask. You say N95 masks are better, and in laboratory studies with Taylor's dummies, indeed they are. But look at Swiss Policy Research's website, which is a pretty unbiased website, and they've got the data up for Bavaria, where N95s were mandated, versus the rest of Germany, where people were mostly using surgical masks, and no difference in the incidence of COVID across the regions. Look now to China.
Let Barrett respond. Barrett.
So look, we have not said that a mask or masks is the only solution. What we are saying is it's one part of a longer armamentum in the reduction of spread of infections. People will keep on quoting study after study, and I will say to you, well, have a look at the papers published in Nature. They are emphatic enough to say that they have a role in reducing, not preventing, but reducing the spread of infection. Now, as an infectious disease doctor, I always say, look, we can do multiple layers of prevention. And the multiple layers are those 3 C's I mentioned, plus vaccines, plus avoidance, plus wearing a mask, but wearing it properly, plus wearing a higher quality mask. I do appreciate that in the UK and places like that, people are resistant and reluctant to wear masks. And there, we need to have a conversation about, will it work? What would you do in certain places? Should you compulsorily wear it, or should you just wear it where there are crowds? Those are conversations we should have. And I know there's a lot of reluctance to wear it.
David, very briefly to you then, because what about the layering effect? Barrett's talking about a layering effect. He's not just saying the masks on their own.
There's good arguments for that layering approach for preventing hospital-acquired infection, but it's quite different in the community because we live in an equilibrium with all sorts of respiratory viruses. You get infected a lot of times as childhood, you build up some immunity, and afterwards you go through life, you get a mild infection, often asymptomatic, you make an immune response, and your immunity goes up and down. You try to prevent that in the community, all that's going to happen is that when you do pick up an infection, it's going to be worse. So instead of getting a little bit of infection like that, it goes as a wave, you get occasional bigger and worse infection because your immunity is drained. It's better to get back to that immune equilibrium with respiratory syncytial virus, with influenza, and to establish de novo such an equilibrium with SARS-CoV-2. And then we can go back to living as we always previously did.
Final word to Barrett. Barrett, you've got about 20 seconds. Your final thoughts on this?
Well, prevention is always good. My advice would be do all you can not to get infected. Be immunized, look after yourself, the vaccines work, and don't get repeatedly infected. If you wish to use the multiple layers of looking after yourself and your family, please do so.
Well, listen, Barrett, thank you very much for joining us. That's Barrett Pankania. He's a senior clinical lecturer at the University of Exeter, and also David Livermore. Thank you very much. You're with me. I'm Nana Akua. This is GB News on TV, online and on digital radio. On the way, we'll continue with our Great British debate this hour. I'm asking, would you object to wearing a face mask? You'll hear the thoughts of my panel, broadcaster and columnist Lizzie Cundy, and also political commentator Sam Dowler. But first, let's get your latest news headlines.
It's 5:32. I'm Aaron Armstrong in the GB newsroom. The Foreign Secretary has condemned Iran's execution of 2 protesters. James Cleverly has called the hangings abhorrent and has urged the country to immediately end the violence against its own people. Iran executed the 2 men for allegedly killing a member of its security forces during nationwide demonstrations following the death of the 22-year-old Kurdish Iranian woman Mahsa Amini last September. We'll bring you up to date with what's been happening in the NHS as well. The government has promised to provide over £14 billion in funding for the NHS over the next 2 years to improve urgent care and tackle the backlog. They say it's the highest spend on health and care in the government's history. It is after the Prime Minister hosted crisis talks with health experts at Number 10 this afternoon in an effort to ease the pressure on the NHS. Well, Chief Executive of the Day Lewis Pharmacy Group, Jay Patel, says the talks were constructive.
You know, the session was a small group of us, lots of insight in terms of what the problems really are out there, balance between community pharmacy and general practice, and some great description of what the core issues are out there on the ground. The PM was very receptive to what we discussed and we explained as issues, and we swiftly moved on to looking at options that we could put into place to be able to rapidly see if we can alleviate some of those challenges.
The RMT says rail companies at the heart of the long-running dispute over pay have made hundreds of millions of pounds in profit. The union claims huge amounts of money were generated when the government awarded private train operators new contracts during the pandemic. They say companies made up to £310 million in taxpayer-funded profits between March 2020 and September 2022. It comes as the RMT and 14 train operators continue their 48-hour walkout over pay, jobs and conditions. Shelling is continuing in Ukraine despite Russia's proposed 36-hour ceasefire. Missile strikes have been heard in the eastern city of Bakhmut, as one resident described the situation. Well, Russia declared its forces would observe a unilateral ceasefire over Orthodox Christmas. That was immediately dismissed by Kyiv as propaganda and also a cynical trap. The Kremlin's version of events is that its troops have only fired in retaliation to attacks from Ukrainian forces. And just to give you an update on the pictures you saw a moment ago, it was flood warnings in place across England and Wales as heavy downpours are set to hit the UK overnight. Scotland has done the same with 6 warnings in place across the country there. This is GB News. We'll bring you more as it happens. Now it is back to Nana Akua.
We are GB News, and we'd like to say thank you to each and every one of you for bringing us your conversations, for helping our great nation find its voice. We are here for you on radio, television, and online, across England, Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland.
It's not the BBC, you actually get your facts right.
We are proud to be GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Monday to Thursday, 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. Join me, Dan Wootton. I'll bring you the sharpest takes and hottest debates.
Do you not believe in prison? I don't believe in prison.
I'm completely stunned. I guarantee you there'll be no spin, no bias, no censorship.
I actually was personally quite offended by it.
And no reason to go to bed.
So I guess they've always been quite woke.
That's Dan Wootton tonight on TV, radio and online. Monday to Thursday from 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello there, it's Eamon Holmes here from Breakfast on GB News. We're not just on your television and your screens, you know.
We're on DAB plus digital radio, so you can listen to your favourite shows on the move.
If you've not yet listened to GB News Radio, it's very simple. We're on your radio player and tune-in apps, on your smart speaker, phone or tablet, or online at gbnews.uk.
Take us with you wherever you go. GB News Radio.
You never have to miss a moment of the People's Channel.
Join me every Sunday at 6 p.m. for Gloria Meets. In exclusive interviews, I'll be finding out who our politicians really are and what they really think.
It's something that you would never want anyone to suffer.
I didn't know what channels there were. I didn't think I'd be believed.
I must have weighed about 7 stone and I'm 5'8".
My instincts was to sort of cover this up. I mean, clearly that was a mistake.
Join me every Sunday at 6 p.m. on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Just coming up to 38 minutes after 5 o'clock. This is GB News on TV, online and on digital radio. I'm Nana Akua, and for the next hour, me and my panel will be taking on some of the big topics hitting the headlines right now. This show is all about opinion. It's mine, it's theirs, and it's yours. We'll be discussing. At times we will disagree, but no one will be cancelled. Right, now it's time... Oh, OK, right now. So now... This show is nothing without you and your views, but right now, let's discuss the idea of wearing face masks. So joining me is my wonderful panel, Sam Dowler and also Lizzie Cundy. Now, we're discussing face masks because the UK Health Agency, Security Agency, has advised adults to stay at home when unwell. And if you don't go out, you have to wear a face covering when unwell. Don't visit healthcare settings or visit vulnerable people unless urgent. Now, this comes amid the rise in the number of COVID cases, with the ONS predicting around 3 million were struck down with COVID over the Christmas period. Critics are up in arms over the advice, which many are saying masks are symbolic of lockdown, a time when people were keen to forget. So, whilst others believe it's a small gesture to prevent the NHS from becoming overstretched. So for the Great British Debate this hour, I'm asking, do you object to wearing a face mask? Let's see what my panel make of that. I'm joined now by Lizzie Cundy, of course, and Sam Dowler. And also joining me is Matt Hoy, ex-UB40.
How are we?
Well, yes, good, thanks. Matt, I'm going to start with you briefly because I want to find out why you're here. Why are you here?
What am I here?
What's it got to do with you?
Well, the thing is, I think it's to do with anything they try to mandate. It's like it's forced upon people. And my whole thing at the minute is choice. Everything should be choice. You know, you have... the vaccines out there, you have the masks out there. If you want to wear a mask, you can wear a mask. I'm not going to judge you for wearing a mask, and I wouldn't expect to be judged for not wearing one. I think the thing for me, I always state this, I had a moment earlier on in the pandemic, and I always call it my Starbucks moment. And I walked in there, and you had to wear a mask to walk in and order. Then when you sat down, you had to take it off. Yeah. Now, restaurant, cafe, whatever, it's a room. So when you stood up then to go and reorder or go to the toilet, you had to put the mask back on. And I'm kind of wondering how COVID knew that you were standing up and you can flip it on its head, you know.
It's a known virus. It's very low down in the air.
Yeah,
exactly, yeah.
But what about the argument that, you know, like if I sneeze, if I went, you'd be like, that's disgusting. But if I went, don't cover my mouth, then put some hand gel on my hands and stuff like that, wouldn't you feel more comfortable if I did that? I'm using my hand to block the thing coming up. Isn't that
I think that's just manners.
Yeah, but isn't a mask, in the case of COVID, wearing masks in places like public transport and stuff would be manners, even though I could touch something after sneezing on my hand or touch your face or shake hands with you, it's still manners. Was that?
Yes, but it doesn't really do anything. I mean, for me, the whole thing with the mask, the symbol of the mask is to protect the person, protect you, obviously. That's what it says it does. But you're at the threat of getting bacteria from wearing it constantly. I suffer from asthma. You're breathing your own air and you're breathing your own carbon dioxide all the time. I'm at risk of getting bacterial pneumonia, which is far worse than COVID would ever be. I think I'd rather risk it with COVID than getting bacterial pneumonia.
But you can get pneumonia with COVID.
Yeah.
What about you, Sam? I mean, look, I personally, I'm not bothered if someone wears a mask, says wear a mask, and I think there will be some type, slight marginal benefit.
Yeah.
Even if it's small, I've had the vaccine, I've had the virus, I've had it all, basically. And so I'm wearing a mask, I'm kind of trying to shield anybody else from me.
Yeah. That's the thing. I think when I spoke to my mum on the way in, actually on the phone, and she was telling me how today. So my mum's 72, and today she went to the hairdresser to have a cut and colour done, and she felt she was in an environment, and flu's going around, etc. So she put on a mask, and without saying anything, the person who was doing her cut put on a mask as well, and the person who did her colour put on the mask as well. She didn't ask them to. I think so. it really, especially with older people, it's just about being considerate. Do you know what I mean? If that's what makes them feel comfortable, then do that. I mean, I don't think there should be another mandate, but I think, you know, obviously for some people, it makes them feel like, oh, phew. And if they want to do that, and especially, like, as I said, at the hairdressers, it's a service industry, so you're there to, you know, to help your customers. So
it makes me think, though, when would it ever end, though? When does it ever end?
Well, what's wrong with it?
You know, because we didn't have them before COVID. So why do we have to?
If you're on the tube, you saw people wearing them.
You know.
Often, like especially people from Asia, they would always, for years and years and years, you would see, you know, people.
But even like say China, but it still hasn't depleted the COVID. Or, you know.
Look, Matt is totally right. It's all about choice. If you want to wear a mask, wear one.
Yeah.
If you don't. Let me tell you, I didn't wear a mask. I didn't want to wear one. I didn't get COVID either. And you know, I don't feel anyone should be forced to do something. We're not in some nanny state. No, I'm sorry, but we're not in some nanny state. And most of my friends who wore a mask didn't wear it properly. It was under there, or they were wearing it on their chin. And the amount of germs you have on a mask. And can I tell you something else? A mask brought so much mental health issues. We've got a mental epidemic now with youngsters who had to wear them at school, who have not recovered from the lockdown crisis.
Yeah, that was sad.
And it really has had a terrible effect on mental health, wearing masks.
The thing is, for me, and I'm listening, I mean, I do think in a school you should be wearing them, and that's just silly because, you know, you can't see the teacher and stuff like that, especially if it's a French class and she's doing the ooh, you can't see their mouth, so you don't know what's going on. But to me, that's the same as wearing, you know, some a hijab where you don't see, or burqa where you can't see the face and you're teaching a lesson that requires people...
There's a barrier, isn't
there? You know, to see what you're doing.
You can't see a smile.
Yeah, they can't see, but see what you're doing. But I don't see the big deal in saying, oh, you have to wear a mask on public transport. I'm not bothered about that.
I think that the main thing is they're supposed to be for protection. And the amount of times I've seen women in town coming out of shops, in restaurants, getting a dirty mask out of their handbag, or some guy walking down the street pulling one out of his jeans and putting it on his face. You know, it's disgusting. So how can these be for health reasons? You know?
Yeah, but let the public make their own mind up. Let the public make their own mind up. We're grown-ups.
They won't do a mandate again.
What if they did, though? What if they mandated it? Will you defy the mandate, or would you just wear the mask and laugh?
I've never wore a mask. I've never worn a mask.
No, I won't. And actually, what are we listening to? These unqualified scientists.
Well, no, we had some doctors and...
Well, I'm sorry, but I'm so sorry. There's so many germs on masks,
you know what
whatever, and I'm
condoms.
Sorry, people don't even wear them properly.
Condoms, that's what we need to do.
Why?
That's what Nina said. We need to wear condoms and put them on our heads. That'll definitely stop it.
I think you'd suffocate first before you protect yourself.
We wouldn't advocate doing that.
No, okay.
Just for the stupid people, if you're watching, please don't do that. Okay.
Like me.
If you can get it over you.
What were you trying to tell me for a minute?
Do that. But honestly, just say, right, that they mandated mask wearing on public transport. Would that be a problem for you? It wouldn't be a problem for me. I would do it.
It wouldn't be a problem because it's not law.
Not for me either. I would 100% wear it because, as you said, and as they said at the time, it's to protect other people, to protect vulnerable people.
But the government can't run the country like a nanny state. You can't be forced. You just cannot.
You should have just stopped that the government can't run the country.
Well, they can't. Exactly.
You're not wrong there.
I was going to give you a political joke, but too many are running the country already. That joke.
You're absolutely right. They've got us talking about the most insignificant things, to divert our attention from the fact that they've got migrants coming through this country from wherever.
Exactly, it's the least of our worries.
Very true.
We've got 42,000 illegal immigrants.
Mandates
Borders
are not
botched.
Law. They're not law. And like Lizzie said, it's choice. It really is choice, you know.
But what about this, like to imagine the scenario that Sam's put you in, where you're at the hairdressers, they've all got the masks on, and you know, there's a little old lady who's obviously quite frightened. I mean, are you still going to give it the big one and say, oh, I'm not going to wear a mask?
No. I would never give it the big one, no.
Might you then put the mask on?
I just think, you know, education, try to educate people, talk to people about the situation. If it makes them feel comfortable, that's fine. But how long does it go on for?
But
I wouldn't wear one, no.
You need to build up immunity. We need to build up immunity. That's the thing.
But I would explain to her why.
And so many millions have had the jabs.
Yeah, the jabs, I'm a bit...
The reason my mum said that was because, like, these are people who are going to be right next to her face when you're doing somebody's hair. So, like, I mean, I think that's fair enough. And the staff, you know, just...
Mental health is more of an issue, and that's what we've got at the minute. And we've got it in the young
as well. So it could protect with things that have bigger droplets. You know what I mean? Or just people who spit when they're talking.
Yeah.
You know,
Sam just did that. Sam just did that to me.
But it might help with other things as well, because I noticed that even though with COVID, I didn't at the time. I think I caught COVID at the beginning, but I also noticed that I didn't get all the other little ailments as well. So perhaps there's something in it for other things, but maybe.
Well, I had COVID terribly. I lost my taste of smell. It was awful. And the first thing I thought was, my Australian sister was living with us at the time, and the first thing she gave me a scowl, as in like, were you not wearing your mask? and I was like, wasn't I? Did I slip up?
Well, let's find out what our viewers think, because this show is nothing without them and our listeners. Let's welcome our great British voices, their opportunity to be on the show and tell us what they think about the topics we're discussing. I've got 4 of you. Right, let's start with Dr. Seshley in Milton Keynes. You are a doctor. She's a doctor. So, Doctor, what do you think about this mask wearing? Should it be mandated? Would you wear one?
Nana, I agree with the panel. It's a personal choice, and I will wear a mask, and I continue to wear masks in addition to my young children. All 3 of them wear masks to school. During the pandemic, Nana, we had outbreaks in the inpatient psychiatric units I worked in, and a mask definitely helped save me and protect me from getting COVID. So I do think it's common sense. It's a multi-layered approach of prevention, in addition to covering your face when you sneeze, disposing your tissues, washing your hands, and maintaining distance. So yes, definitely I would say the approach is to wear a mask, but it's a personal choice.
She says, but does it wear a mask walking to school in the outside? Doesn't make any sense. Let's get to Brian Dugan. He's there in Solihull. Are you there in Solihull, Brian Dugan?
I am indeed, Nana. How are
I've got it right for once. What do you think? Mask or not a mask? Do you have an issue with it?
I have no objection to it. In and of itself, it's not going to prevent anything. But as you say, in combination with everything else, such as ventilation, distancing, vaccination, it's a well-established fact that masks work in tandem with all those other measures. So why would you not? No one's saying that masks alone will prevent the transmission. But if they reduce in combination with all of those other measures, then why would we not?
Well, Julie, thank you very much for that, Brian. Julie Ford there, she's in Bedfordshire. What do you think? Mask or no mask? Do you have an issue with wearing one if you're mandated?
No, I have no issue with wearing one if we have to wear one. It would be a personal choice for me not to wear one. I'm under the vulnerable group anyway because I have congenital heart defect. So I was literally vaccinated up to my eyeballs. But wearing a mask, it didn't worry me whether other people weren't. But I agree with everybody else that said it's about building up our immunity as well. Everything you pick up now in the supermarket kills 99.9% of germs. We don't have the immunity we had when we were kids, when we were eating dirt and everything else. That's what we need to be worried about, is building up our immune system again.
Speak for yourself, I never ate dirt. I used to peel chewing gum off the floor and chew that instead, I know. Thank you, Julie, for that. Right, let's lastly go to Alan McNeely, who's from Grimsby. Alan, what do you think?
I think that the masks that most people wear now are a complete and utter waste of time. Unless you're going to have a medically prescribed mask that actually fits your face, and there's a reason for wearing it, it's just nonsense. Scaremongering rubbish. There might be a reason for wearing a mask in hospital, but to be out walking about, I mean, if people want to do it, that's fine, but these nappies that they wear on their face, they're just ridiculous. They're not doing any good whatsoever. It's all about virtue signalling and, oh, how terrible, how scared we should all be. I mean, I just think it's absolutely rubbish. I can think of stronger words, but I'll stick with rubbish.
Yeah, you stick with that, please. Thank you very much. Alan McNeely, Brian Dugan, Julie Ford and Dr. Seshley Moodley. Thank you so much for joining us. Those are our great British voices. But now it's time for our quick-fire quiz, the part of the show where I test my panel on some of the other topics hitting the headlines right now. I'm joined now by broadcaster and columnist Lizzie Cundy. Lizzie, press your buzzer, please. And also political commentator Sam Dowler. Sam Dowler. Right.
Pardon me?
Right, so please play along at home. Right, so question 1. Footballer Cristiano Ronaldo made an embarrassing own goal during a press conference for his new club. But what did he say? Did he A, forgot the name of his club, B, he couldn't remember the country he was in, or C, he fell off his chair? Lizzie?
A. Go for A.
Sam Tyler, what do you think?
I think B.
The answer is B. He forgot the country he was in. But Sam, you didn't press your buzzer before you spoke, so unfortunately you can't have that. No, I'll let you have it. Go on then. Sam Dowler, 1 point.
Yes. Question as well.
Yeah, you can have that. Ronaldo said that he was happy to have moved to South Africa when, in fact, he was now playing for the club Al Nassr in Saudi Arabia. And last year, his contract with Manchester United was abruptly terminated following a tell-all interview with Piers Morgan. Ronaldo's transfer was worth a staggering 175 million quid. Wow. How much would you cost, Lizzie?
A lot of money.
Would you accept 175 million?
Oh, come on.
Twist your arm. What about you, Sam? Twist your arm.
I'll do anything for just $1 million.
Exactly. Question 2. Closest answer wins. According to the first ever sexuality and gender census, how many people in England and Wales identify as LGBTQ+? Sam Dowler.
1.5 million.
Lizzie.
1.2.
1.5 million is spot on the nose. He knew that.
He knew that.
Yes, around about 3.2% of the population in its 200 years history.
Wow.
The census ever included there from LGBTQ+ community. Stonewall chief executive said the census now paints a more accurate picture. Right, question 3. Which British accent has been voted the sexiest according to a survey? Is it...
Oh, sorry.
You are disqualified.
Is it A, the London accent, B, the Geordie accent, or C, the Mancunian accent? Lizzie.
I'm going to go for A, because I'm a Londoner.
Sam, what were you going to say?
I was actually going to say Liverpool, but that's not on there, so
It's not
I'd
on
say
there.
Geordie.
Geordie. The answer is C, Mancunian. Both wrong, doesn't matter.
Damn.
According to a survey conducted by Best Casinos, the Manc twang in the accent seems to get people hot under the collar. Mancunians top the leaderboard. Sorry, that's Liverpool. Just ahead of their neighbours, Liverpool and Ireland.
Oh, to be sure.
Which accent would you like? If you
I
had
really do like Irish, actually.
And you,
That's what Irish.
Scouse, I love a scouse.
I'd take Brummie.
He's Brummie.
Was he Brummie? I'm joking.
Did you look him in his eyes and in his mouth?
And then, yeah, you've got to do that.
I'm going to try that later. I'm going to try that tonight.
Question 4, true or false? Award-winning actor Edward Norton has discovered he was descendant of a historical figure, Pocahontas. True or false? I think that was you, Lizzie.
True.
Is it true? And Sam Dowler, what
True,
you
it's true, yes.
You can say it's true. It is actually true, yes. I think I am as well.
My favourite Disney. I love Pocahontas.
The Fight Club actor discovered that Pocahontas was his 12th great-grandma on a TV show. Pocahontas was a Native American woman who married an English settler in the 1600s. Her story is frequently depicted in popular culture, including Disney movies. Who's your favourite Disney character, Lizzie?
I love Snow White.
Oh, she's nice. What about you?
Belle, I think, from Beauty and the Beast.
But you see, you can't do this anymore because you couldn't have dwarves sleeping in the same room. The woke brigade wouldn't like it.
No, you can't have dwarves.
You can't have some sleeping
You can't
in the same
Story.
I think it's people with dwarfism, or you're not allowed to use that either. I'm not
Exactly.
sure. Right, question 5. Prince Harry has been hitting the headlines this week after extracts of his memoir were leaked to the press. In his autobiography, Harry reveals that the nickname he has his brother for Prince William. But what is the nickname? Is it A, Willie? Is it B, Baldy? Or C, Wombat? I think I do. Will you go first, Sam? What do you think?
I wish it was Baldy, but it's Willie.
OK, what about
It is Willie.
It's Willie. The answer is it's Willie. Absolutely right. I will tell you the scores in a moment, but Prince William also has a nickname for his brother and calls him Harold in private. According to one of the extracts, William physically attacked the Duke of Sussex following an argument about his wife, Meghan. Right, let's see what my panel make of that. The argument...
I mean,
Did
argument...
you fight with him?
I mean, how many, sibling rivalry, fights? It happens all the time. And the thing is with Harry, he's not just lost his royal family, he's lost the military family. And indeed, he nearly lost something else because he had frostbite on it.
I've got a sister and we've had some riotous fights, physical, mental, everything. So it's just a totally natural thing. Nobody can push your buttons like your sibling and get that red mist coming.
It happens
so
every
it's
day.
It's not a big surprise.
I mean, my sister used to do the things like I put all my pens in a pencil case, and then she would cut the corner. And I noticed all my pens would come out. I was like, how's that going on? It's good, isn't it? It's quite good, isn't it? Well, listen, on today's show, we've been asking, who do you trust, Rishi Sunak or Sir Keir Starmer? According to our Twitter poll, 9.2% of you trust Sunak, 6.7% of you trust Sir Keir Starmer, 39.4% trust Richard Tice's Reform UK, whilst 44% of you don't support any of the above. Thank you so much to my panel, broadcaster and columnist Lizzie Cundy and political commentator Sam Dowler. And a huge thank you to you for joining me today. I'll be back tomorrow at 4 to discuss the top stories with author Christine Hamilton and broadcaster and journalist Danny Kelly. And we'll also be joined by X Factor starlet Katie Wazel. Don't go anywhere. I'll see you then at 4.
Looking ahead to this evening's weather, and the UK is looking rather breezy with bands of showers, heavy at times and brighter spells in between. Here are the details. A blustery spell for the West Country with scattered showers pushing across the region on a fresh southwesterly wind. Temperatures generally falling to between 7 and 10 Celsius. For London and southeast England, the evening will be rather breezy with the risk of some heavy showers and temperatures between 7 and 9 Celsius. Showery for South Wales and cloudy at times as bands of showers move in from the southwest. Turning windy with temperatures between 7 and 9 Celsius. Birmingham and the West Midlands are likely to see a band of heavy showers move eastwards across the region through the evening. It will turn rather breezy with temperatures of around